Hey, are you thinking of selling your business in 2025? Here's what buyers want. If you're a business owner considering an exit, do you know what makes your business attractive to buyers? The market is shifting and not all businesses sell. So here's how you can position your business for a successful sale. On today's Profit with a Plan podcast, I'm joined by Chris Cantwell, business expert and broker and co founder of Transworld Business Advisors. And we're going to break down what today's buyers are looking for in a business, how to sell your business for a strong sale price, and the biggest mistakes that kill deals and how to avoid them. So if selling your business is on your mind right now, don't miss this insider tips from someone who has helped countless business owners close successful deals. So tune in today to Profit with a Plan. Hey, entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for little profit? Welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help you scale smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you keep it or sell it. I'm Marcia Riner, a business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs to turn their business into highly profitable and sale ready assets so they enjoy more income now and a bigger payout later. So join me for practical strategies, expert insights, and proven steps that make your business more profitable, more valuable, and built to last. By the way, today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. But before we get started, I have something special for you. So if you're feeling like you're doing everything right, but not seeing the results you want, it might be time for a fresh perspective. That's why we're offering a free growth and marketing audit. You can do this solely by yourself without us, or in just one powerful session, we'll uncover opportunities to drive real growth for your business. If you're ready to make that impact, go visit profitbooster.biz and let's get started. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Our guest today is Chris Cantwell, a leading expert in business acquisition and sales, serving as co founder and owner partner of Transworld Business Advisors here in Las Vegas with me. With over 1,500 transactions and 110 million a deal, he specializes in business valuations, strategic deal making, and seamless ownership transitions across Nevada, Colorado, and Texas, and then through the rest of the country with his broker network. As a multi-award-winning broker, Chris has earned the Broker of the Year and Deal Maker of the Year honors with his expertise in helping business owners maximize the value and close successful sales. Whether buying or selling, he provides the insights and strategies needed to navigate 2025 business market with confidence. All right, Chris, welcome to Profit with a Plan.
Glad to be here. Thank you for the invite, Marcia.
Absolutely. I forgot to mention he's a fellow provisor in our community. So I thought this was a great conversation to have with a friend that I have off video, and now we'll bring it to the world and let you all see Chris's greatness that he has. So, Chris, question for you. I always like to start with:
Yeah.
how'd you get into the broker dealer world of selling business?
Yeah, no, great question. So, most of my career I spent in the restaurant industry, but specifically I was working with franchisees. So, small business owners, some of them had just one or two restaurants, some of them had a group of 12 to 20 different restaurants. So, working shoulder to shoulder with small business owners is something I've been doing pretty much all my career, and I love entrepreneurship, and it's been great. So this was an easy transition to move to the sale of these small businesses, as there's a large number of people that are looking to retire. All the baby boomers are looking to retire, and they've got some great businesses that need to get out on the market, and there's more buyers than sellers in the market today. So it's a fun time.
Is there really more buyers?
There are, yeah. When you put a listing out there, and it depends on the listing, depends on the pricing, depends on the industry, all those come into play. But there's a lot more buyers than there are sellers. We have no problem finding people. You gotta find the right one, but we can cast a pretty wide net.
I love that. So, I would think that the buyers that are out there are really particular about what they're looking for in their business, right? That they're doing. Um, is there a mix of those that just kind of want a hands-off investment and those that want to get, elbow deep in it?
Yeah, so that brings up a good point as well. Most of these businesses, and when I say small businesses, independently owned, family type businesses, they tend to be businesses that need to be run, that
Mm.
somebody needs to be driving the ship. So there's not a lot of investment opportunity in these businesses. And I do talk to a lot of buyers that say, I've got a full-time job, but I want to spend some money over here and own a company and get a check in the mail every month and not run it. And I call those
Pipe
unicorns
dream.
because there's just not very many that are out there like that. Or if they are, they don't come to market to be sold. If somebody else
Mm.
is running it, they probably will buy it. Or if there's a family member that's running it, or the employees, or whatever it may be, it may not be a business that ever comes to market. So from a mindset perspective, for most of the buyers out there, these are businesses that somebody's got to run. If you trust a bunch of employees, well, employees can come and go, and what are you going to do if your employees leave and you don't know how to run your own company? So that's my 2 cents there.
Well, good. That's a great foundation for our conversation then, because then we're really talking to those that are operators, owner operators that are involved with the day-to-day operations of it. They don't have to go out and, change the tire if it's an auto repair place, but they need to be involved in the company and they can't be a distant arm in it. So I like that. Because that's really where small America, small business in America has really come up with. And there's so many opportunities that if you're ready to take that leap and maybe you own a similar business, or maybe you want to get out of corporate America and go delve into the business, this is a perfect way to buy something that's already up and running and has a successful track record, and you can hit the ground running.
Exactly. And here's kind of some insights too. Most of our buyers today, I would say, are probably 40 years old. They've got 20 years of work experience under their belt. They've got a family and stability in their life. They've got some money saved up, and they're just ready to go be entrepreneurs. And what I love about the buyers today is they've got a ton of energy and enthusiasm, right? So if you think about the baby boomer seller, and maybe he's 65, 70 years old, and he's had this company for 20, 30, 40. I've got one guy that's had it for 50 years that we're
Wow.
under contract on. And what's unique about that is most of these sellers today have been on cruise control for the last, sometimes 5, 10 years. So they're not scaling, they're not growing. Some of them don't even have websites. Some of them have very old websites, and they're just, they've been comfortable, and they're had no interest in scaling and growing and building on the business or making other acquisitions or anything along those lines. They're thinking about retirement. So
Mm.
the buyers that are coming in, they're 40 years old, full of energy. A lot of them have a lot of tech savviness, the websites, social media, all that stuff. They can buy these businesses that have been around for decades and scale them very easily by just doing some of that extra, networking, marketing,
I love it.
advertising, whatever you want to do there to really grow and scale these businesses. So that's what makes this dynamic really unique right now, I think.
It sounds exciting because you're right. There's a huge age gap of those baby boomers that are on their way out. And yes, I mean, I talk to them all the time about the business growth, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm okay, right?" Like you
I,
said, they've been sitting on cruise control. But the
yep,
opportunity that you and I and young buyers can see coming in and taking over this business really has a great potential. The trajectory for that growth is easy, and it's like low hanging fruit if they just put a little into the company
exactly.
and modernized it a little bit, put some innovations into it, and they're ripe for the picking. So I
Yes.
love it.
Yeah.
So I think you're hitting the point that this is what buyers want today, is they want kind of that If you imagine, the old house on the corner that hasn't been updated in a long time and it's sitting there, but it's in a great neighborhood, right? So let's
Yeah.
go in and get that, do a little fix and flip on it and or buy and hold, and you can make a great investment out of this, right?
Yeah. And it's so much easier to buy something that's already established, that's been around for a long time,
Then
and
start it up. Oh my gosh.
acquire that business, and customers are going to come in, the phone's going to ring, the orders are going to come in, whatever it may be, the next day you own it. When you go start your own company, nobody may call, open the front door, put an order in for some time. So
Long
uh,
time.
there's a lot of work to be done to go start a new company, when there's so many great companies that are out there that, again, are just prime for taking over, and have been around for a long time, have a great history. It's a great brand, whatever it may be, great employees that might be working there, a number of things. So I always say yes. You're better off going and buying and acquiring something that's out there, and growing it from there, than starting on your own.
So let's talk about what kind of businesses are out there. You mentioned that you were doing franchises before, and I think franchises always seem to scare me just a little bit because there's too many rules and regulations you've got to follow along and paying the piper the whole way.
Yeah.
Um, are you selling franchises or are you selling mom and pop businesses?
So we will do resales of franchises. So we have a sister company that actually does new franchises. So if we've got a buyer that says, "Man, I really like the franchise model. There's some cool franchises out there." That's certainly a great route for them.
Mm,
It kind of goes back to my same theory of it. It could be a great franchise out there, but you're starting from scratch. You're opening the door and hoping somebody comes into your business.
yeah.
So we have a lot of franchise resales out there, meaning somebody's already established the brand and it's been operating for a long time, and may have a great track record. And then it doesn't necessarily matter that it's a franchise. If it's established business, it's running well, it's got good profitability, all the check boxes that buyers are looking for. If it meets those criteria, then they're okay with the franchise model. And
Okay,
and,
got it.
and certainly there are some great franchise systems out there. Transworld's a franchise system, and I absolutely love it. They're great for the support that we get with our offices.
Nice experience from the wallet in the back pocket, right? Um,
Exactly, exactly.
so what kind of businesses are you seeing out there that are attractive and hitting the market these days? What kind of businesses?
Yeah. So let me break it down this way. 70% of all small businesses, and the SBA calls a small business under 500 employees, which to me is a big business, but it falls
Can
under the
be.
small business. Yeah. So, like 70% of all small businesses in America do $1 million or under per year in gross revenue, gross sales,
Mhm.
right? So that's the biggest segment of the market. So when you look at our, the metrics on what we sell in a given year, 70% of these businesses do $1 million and under in gross revenue, and that probably puts them in the 200 to sometimes three or $400,000 cash flow, and we use what's called seller discretionary cash flow, or EBITDA. You'll see sometimes EBITDA is usually used when it's a little bit larger company. And then the next segment are businesses that are doing from 1 to 10 million, and that's maybe another 20%, and then maybe the last 10% is doing 10 to 20 million, and that's really Main Street America. The
Mm,
larger companies, you'll the M&A advisors do a lot of the larger companies that are doing
right.
50 million, 100 million in revenue. Those are a little bit different deals. These are truly Main Street American businesses, independently owned, family run, whatever it may be. And so when you look at the market like that, and the sweet spot are these businesses that are doing 6, 7, 8 million in revenue and kicking out, maybe 500 to $1 million of cash flow. You put that out in the market, you're going to get a ton of interest, but it's a
Wow.
smaller
Yeah.
population. So, people love to buy those businesses. There's just not as many out there. And that goes
Sure.
back to why, a lot of these businesses that are only doing $1 million in revenue a year are great little businesses, kick out a couple 100,000 of cash flow, but you got to run it. That's not an investment type business where you just go purchase a business and expect a check in the mail every month, as we talked about before.
Right. So those businesses, when we look at them, how do you price those kind of businesses? So I mean, if it's $1 million in revenue and they're kicking out 2 or 300,000 in cash flow each year, what would a buyer expect to pay for something like that? And we know it's not, we're looking for ranges here.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many different ways to value a business, which makes part of what I do a little bit challenging. But the basic rule of thumb, and this is the way the SBA banks work, as an
Okay.
example, right? So a buyer wants to buy a business, the SBA typically needs 10% down. And when I say the SBA, I want to clarify something. The SBA does not actually lend money. So your local banks lend money, but under the SBA platform, which basically
The
guarantees.
regulations that they're following, right?
Yeah, and it insures or guarantees the loan up to 70%. So if
Oh,
there's a default, so if somebody buys $1 million company through a bank and there's a default and they have to close down the company or whatever, the SBA will guarantee 70% of that to the bank. So
got it.
a buyer can put 10% down. The bank's risk there is like 20%, but the banks actually lend money under the SBA platform. So that's how that works. And it's a process. It can take 8 to sometimes 16 weeks to go through that process of an SBA uh,
Approval.
approval, fund bank lending, that whole scenario. So the way the SBA looks at these deals, the way banks look at these deals, the way the market works for the most part is businesses are sold on a multiple of their cash flow.
Ah,
So when I say cash flow, again, it's either seller discretionary earnings for little smaller companies, or EBITDA is something you'll hear a lot on a little bit of larger companies. And really the difference is in how the owner compensates himself at the end of the day. So an EBITDA number might be a smaller number, but it has a higher multiple. And the SD number might be higher, but a smaller multiple. So it all kind of works out the same. And typically what you see in the market is a range of anywhere from a 1x, 1x multiple. So if you're doing 200,000 in seller discretionary earnings and you get a 1x multiple, you're selling the company for 200,000. 1x to 4x is probably where most of these businesses that are doing less than 10 million a year in revenue land. So if you again, you're doing 200,000 and you get a 3x multiple, you're selling it for 600,000. So that's the basic premise of how businesses are sold and valued.
got it. That is an excellent explanation on how businesses are sold because, the buyer thinks, oh my gosh, or excuse me, the seller thinks, oh my gosh, I've put my, blood, sweat, tears, nights, weekends into this company, right?
Yep.
30 years worth of time. What? I'm only going to get 1 to 4 times the cash flow that comes out of it. So they
Yep.
tend to be a little disappointed sometimes on it, which is why I'm always working to make sure that they're getting cash flow up as high as they can and make the business as profitable as they can. And they're taking money out of the company rather than keep feeding it in. But that's a whole nother conversation. But it's like the poor seller thinks, oh, at 30 years into the business, I should get, a lot more money out of it. But it's better than closing down and walking away, right?
Exactly. And that's what business owners don't, a lot, there's not a lot of business brokers out there in the first place because these deals are very difficult and hard to do. And if it was
Sure.
easy, a lot more people would be doing it. And I can touch on that and what makes these difficult transactions as we go on. But a lot of business owners, they, it's almost like they're selling off their family or a family
Their
member,
baby,
right?
right?
They've had these employees sometimes for 20 years and they know
Mm,
their kids, and I mean they're literally family. So when a seller takes a business to market, it's very emotional for a seller, and confidentiality is paramount, right? Like
mm.
we can't take these businesses to market and let Their employees know it's for sale. Their competitors know it's for sale. Their customers know it's for sale. So you've got to take a business to market confidentially. And that makes it a challenge to sell a business.
Sure.
Uh, the other thing, I'll touch on it real quick too, is if you think about it this way, a buyer who's looking at different businesses, they never need to buy a business. They want to buy it. They like that business, but they don't need it, right? It's not like two people selling a home and one family's got to move to Texas and one family's got to move to Las Vegas and everybody needs a place to live. That's a lot easier deal to do because that's a need. So a seller in my scenario needs to sell. They need to retire or they've got a health issue, whatever it may be. They need to sell.
Mm.
And the buyer never needs to buy. They want to buy. So that makes the deal itself a little bit challenging. And then the other components to that, especially with our baby boomer sellers, is it's very emotional for them.
Mm.
And the emotional side the buyer doesn't get. The buyer's very objective and why did you do
They're
this?
looking for numbers.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they're they want to get out their spreadsheets and laptops and calculators and the seller's going, oh, what do you need this laptop for? It's all in my head and I've
Ah,
been running this
yes.
company for 30 years and I don't ever look at spreadsheets. I don't need all that data.
I know,
So
doesn't that just make you it just
yeah,
must make you crazy to deal with
yeah,
that kind of relationship when they're coming. It's almost like two huge differences in generations, the
that
seller
too.
and the buyer, to be able to come to a magical number that makes the seller who's got these emotions going on and the buyer's going, hey, there's an opportunity. Let me take this and run with it, right? And they're just
Yeah.
it's like almost oil and water in the transaction.
Yeah, the other thing too that makes this a challenge, and I also think kind of unique and kind of cool, is the buyer and the seller need to have a relationship, right? There's
Mm.
going to be this transition time. They're going to work together for some time, and
Mm.
they've got to know each other. They got to like each other. They got to trust each other. The seller's selling off his family to this person that's coming in and taking it over that doesn't know any of these employees and can't talk to them before the business sale happens.
Right.
It makes it a bit of a challenge and but they've got to have this relationship. It'd be, here's the example I use, right? Again, two people buying and selling homes, hey, you're going to have to move in with family A for 6 weeks before family A moves out of that house.
You're like, "What?"
Both your families are going to have to live in the same house, for the next 6 or 8 weeks. And that can be a challenge in itself. So that's the way I kind of frame that in terms of, they got to like each other and they got to trust each other. There's got to be some really
Mm.
good rapport and communication and all those things. So again, another layer to that challenge of selling these businesses.
Which is why you need a business broker, and you can't go out and just like put a for sale sign in the front yard and hope it's going to sell, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of mistakes that can occur when you're selling the company that could kill the deals. So why
Yeah.
don't you share a few of those mistakes with us that
Yeah.
that do sabotage the transaction and end up either killing it totally or drastically reducing the value you're going to get for the sale?
Absolutely. And I think that the number one thing is, especially when you're going through, a couple things. Last year, our company, our franchise system, which is Texas, Nevada, and Colorado, we sold about 225 businesses last year. The average time is about 7.5 months from the time it lists to the time it sells. And that's
Mhm.
a wide range. Some of these businesses will go under contract in, the first 30 days. And some we've had listed for 2 years. So seven
Mm.
and a half, 8 months is the average time. So the thing I tell a seller when we go to market is run this business like you're going to own it for the next 2 years, because there's a good chance you're going to still own it for another year. So don't take your foot off the pedal. Like you run
Right?
this thing and never, just take it out of your mind that it's out there being marketed for a sale. You've got to stay focused on the business. You got to, run this thing like you're going to own it for the next, 5 years, whatever it takes. Because what happens is sellers do get in that mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm emotional and everything's going on, and I feel bad about telling my employees, and I'm told not to tell them. There's just all these scenarios that can happen, and that's That's an important one too, is the employees can't know because that really causes problems.
I can
But
imagine.
the biggest thing is not taking your foot off the pedal. And I've seen that too many times, especially when if it's going to take, 12 to 16 weeks for bank financing, every month that goes by, the bank's going, where are the March numbers? Where are the April numbers? What's going on in the business? And if you take your foot off the pedal and the business is declining in the middle of the sale, it's going to spook the buyer and they're going to walk away. Again, they don't need the business. They would love to own it. They want to be
They want
entrepreneurs.
it.
They
I
want
think
it.
that's the
They don't
biggest
need it.
takeaway is that the buyers want the business, they don't need the business.
Yeah. And
And we
that,
have to continuously, as sellers, make that business super attractive to that buyer so that buyer goes, "Ooh, I really want that business," right?
yeah.
It's yeah, it's definitely something that I've seen from my side of it is that business owners start to sit back and relax.
Yeah. And kind of going
And
back to your
chill.
question about, a business owner trying to sell on their own, and certainly they do all the time. And sometimes they sell to their family members, sometimes they sell to competitors, sometimes they sell to
Yeah, some
employees.
some unrequested offer comes in the mail and you're like, "Oh, really?"
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So those transactions do happen. But it's different when you're going to market to go try to find the best deal, right? So as your competitor buys you, how do you know that maybe you could have got a better deal out in the market? The competitor knows what they're
Exactly.
trying to work you over for. So going to the market brings you a whole new perspective on what the value of the company is. And at the end of the day, a lot of times I'll tell sellers, let's go put it on the market and let's get some feedback from the market. And the feedback we can use to kind of narrow in or make changes or make adjustments in the business or how they're running it or how we're positioning it. So sometimes just going to market to get feedback from the market is real valuable. But as far as selling on their own, trying to go to market on their own, selling on their own, one, it's got to stay confidential. You need an NDA process. Two, you need to sell as the seller. A buyer wants to buy. That mindset alone is very different and makes negotiations very tough, right? Because
Mm.
the seller's sitting there going, well, I've put over $1 million into this company and, you only want to buy it for 300,000.
Right, I know, right?
But my company's the best company out there. Like it's worth $1 million and, it's cash flowing 100,000 and it's a 10x multiple. And the buyer's like, yeah, yeah, no, thanks. Not going to take 10 years for my return on my investment. And then that
Right.
relationship component, right? When you have a broker in there and the broker's got to be the negotiator, and these are never black and white deals. It's not like, hey, here's $1 million, I'll pay for your business, throw me the keys, we'll do a week of transition and you're out the door.
Wrong.
That's not how a deal is structured whatsoever. There's multiple levers and components in a deal and some difficult conversations sometimes.
Ah,
Again,
yeah.
because the buyer and seller need to trust each other and need to like each other for a successful transition of this business. They don't want to be the ones saying no or that sucks, or you can use the broker to be the bad cop and to deliver the hard messages that you have to deliver in these
Right.
negotiations. And then they can always blame, oh well, Chris said this is the way we should do it, and really the seller was like, you need to tell him that's the way we're doing it, but he doesn't need to hear that from the seller. So having that third party in there that is the mediator of the negotiations and makes it less less frustrating for either side because they do have to get along. I think that's really important.
All right. Well, give us one more of the mistakes, the biggest mistakes that kill deals, and then we'll wrap this one up. But yeah,
Yeah,
this is really great information, Chris. I mean, you're
yeah.
opening the eyes to the everyday transactions, of mom and pops that are selling like every day, everywhere. So opportunities are amazing. But give us one more of those mistakes that we've got to make sure we avoid.
Yeah, the other thing is telling people that your business is for sale, and I touched on this, right? The employees you do not want to let know. Anytime you tell an employee, even if he's been around for 20, 30 years, we've seen scenarios where it's a week before closing and that seller just wants to tell his, I mean, this is like one of his best friends and their families hang out together and he's not been able to tell them the whole time. And this is a scenario that happened, and the seller said, "Man, I just got to tell I just can't close this transaction and not let my key guy. This is it's now been a lifelong friend. That the company's for
Gotta
sale. And
know.
this particular person was like the general manager and really kind of ran the whole shop. And he told him a week before, and this employee was so upset about this whole sale and everything that he went and told all the customers, oh, the business is for sale, it's crashing, and just it blew up the deal. This was like a $6 or $7 million transaction, and
Wow.
the when you tell the employee's not under any kind of confidentiality agreement, and they go home and they tell their family, or even for sellers, not to tell outside of maybe their spouse and their kids, or a very close family. Like, you just don't want to start telling your neighbors. You just don't want it to get out that your company's for sale, because that will cause problems. 10 out of 10 times issues come up when employees or other people find out that the business is for sale. So confidentiality is paramount, without a doubt.
You know what? That is actually huge, because I could imagine if a key employee finds out and now they start looking for a new job and potentially leave, you're selling that employee with the business, because that
Yep.
employee knows where all the skeletons are and
Yep.
how to run the business and everything else. You want that key employee in there. And if they're already gone, or they take their foot off the gas, right, and slow the company down a little bit because they're distraught, or
Yep.
or worse, gosh, your customers find out that you're selling the company, and they go, "Oh, well, if it's not gonna be Joe's Automotive anymore, well, then I'm gonna go over to Steve's Automotive now, because I don't need to be there anymore." And those
Yep.
are things that you're selling as part of the company. So
Yeah.
it is mind-boggling how much of a domino effect can occur when word sneaks out that the business ownership is changing.
Yeah, and you touched on a great point too, especially with the employees. Buyers want the employees. It's funny because sellers will say this to me a lot. My employees are my world to me. Like, the buyer's not going to come in and just fire everyone, right? Like, I'm really worried that somebody's going to come in and fire all my employees. That never happens. It's
They
just
need
not a
them.
thing. The buyers want those employees. The employees are so valuable. They're so hard to find today. And yeah, they know everything about the business. So when you do that sale, the buyer always wants the employees. I mean, even when they're acquiring a competitor, they still want their employees. So employees
Yeah.
are real important. And there's a lot of fear, even on the buyer side. Well, I want to talk to all these employees before I buy it. I want to make sure they're going to stay. Well, again, if you plant
No.
a seed of doubt in an employee's head, they're either going to quit before the sale, or they're out there looking for a job. And as soon as the buyer buys the business, they got a new job and they're out. So it doesn't help
Exactly.
either the buyer or the seller for anyone to know that this transaction's happening. What happens is we close the sale, we close the transaction, and there's, it might be an all employee meeting or whatever it is, where the seller says, hey, here's what's going on. I'm retiring. It's just that time. And Joe over here has just bought the company, and he's going to introduce himself. And don't worry, nobody's going away. I'm sticking around for 3 more months. So you're still going to see me every day. Nobody's pay is changing. Nothing's changing for the employees. And the buyers get that too. No buyer comes in there and goes, well, we're cutting everybody's
Here we
pay.
go. Okay,
Yeah,
now you're gonna stand over
it
there
just
this
doesn't
time,
happen.
and
That's like,
you're going over
yeah,
there.
something you see in the movies, right? Like, in the real world, no, it doesn't happen. Employees are real.
I love it. It's so important to have that conversation up front. And I think that's what the broker does. The broker is there to handle the transaction, but also you become part of the family, right? Because you're on both sides of them going, okay, here's what you're going to do. Here's the hand-holding I need to do. Here's the structure you need to follow. Here's the steps that you need to take. I mean, you're more than just listing the property and making, closing the deal. You become
Yeah.
a really vital part on both sides of the transaction, the coming in and the going out, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Exactly. And deal experience is paramount to this too. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I've sold over 100 of my own listings and worked on, probably another 25 or 50 deals that were not specifically my listings. And there's just never been two transactions that are exactly the same. It
Mm.
doesn't matter the industry, can be two roofing companies doing the same, they're both doing 3 million in revenue, and they're two very different companies behind the scenes. They're just, every deal's got to be so different. And having that deal experience and being able to say, okay, well, here's a hurdle here. Here's how we've gotten over this in the past on a completely separate deal. This was a way to find that resolution. And one thing that I do when we get an offer is accepted, the deal's been agreed to on a basic, letter of intent to purchase, non-binding. That gives the buyer exclusivity to the deal. So we keep it on the market, but it's under contract essentially. They get a due diligence period to explore everything about the business, really make sure they understand it, make sure everything is working and there's no major issues in it. And then at the end of due diligence is when they make up their final mind. But what you'll find is in all of these deals, there's just always challenges that come up, always, 100% of the time. And our job as the brokers are to find the resolutions that work for both parties. These deals are not just, I got to go get the top dollar that I can and screw this guy over.
Not just a transaction.
Set
It's
them
way
up for
more.
success. Yeah, there's so much more involved in these. And again, it's very emotional for both sides. And if you've got a good broker that's got a lot of deal experience, they're going to find resolutions and ways to get deals done. And I'm sure in my first year or two of doing business brokerage deals, I don't know what the percentage was, but I probably had a lower percent actually get to a closing than I do today, when I just, from so many different deals and transactions that I've been involved in, can typically
How to
find a
make it
solution
happen.
to a problem, whether it's a landlord or a franchisor or the bank or the buyer, the seller, or their family members or their attorneys and CPAs.
There's a
I've
lot involved.
had all those challenges, and
Gosh.
I typically can find a creative solution as needed, because they'll come up in every deal. Again, there's just no black and white deal in these business
Love it.
transactions.
All right. So we know there's no black and white deals. We know that you need the expertise of a broker with experience, and that is absolutely you, Chris. So where can listeners find out more about you and Transworld Advisors?
Yeah, of course. You can always find me on just my landing page, which is ccsellsbiz.biz, and that links to all of my different web pages. And of course at Transworld, I'm a partner in our Colorado office. I'm the managing broker and co-founder of our Las Vegas office, but we've got a great network across the country and internationally as well. So if you're in another market, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you and educate you a little bit on the selling process. And there's multiple states that we work in, so I'm still maybe able to handhold you through the whole process, or let somebody in one of the other offices kind of pick it up, and I can work more behind the scenes. So we really kind of work at a more national level behind the scenes, even though we only have our quote unquote offices in Texas, Colorado, and Nevada.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll definitely check that out. Okay, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you picked up some valuable insights and actionable ideas that it can help your business be more profitable. And what's more profitable about this conversation is you want to make your business sale ready from day one. So if you can follow Chris's ideas and understand how you're going to exit the business sometime in the future, whether it's now or 30 years in the future, you can do those things now in your business to make it stronger. And so that's why I bring on guests like Chris to tell us and prepare us for the future. All right, as I mentioned, it might be time for a fresh perspective. That's why we're offering a free growth and marketing audit. And in just one powerful session, you'll uncover opportunities to drive real growth in your business. And if you're ready to make that impact, go visit profitbooster.biz to get started. Don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss future shows, because you can always catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players. We're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thank you so much, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you.